We keep things rolling on a very special edition of the Sports Cubicle here on WCPT 820 AM, HeartlandSignal.com, WSBC 1240 AM Chicago, and on YouTube at the Sports Cubicle. I'm your host, Mike Mercado, and the entire gang is here. It is Paul Shivari, it is Devin Tingle, it is Dan Marver, which means if it is February, if the entire crew is here, it is time for the big game special here on the Sports Cubicle, a 60th edition of the game and the 5th, 6th, 7th edition here on the show. And we are going to break down who's going to win, who's going to lose, who's going to be the MVP, the final score, the color of the Gatorade that will be poured on the victorious coach. It is going to be a very fun edition of the Sports Cubicle as we preview the NFC champion Seattle Seahawks versus the AFC champion New England Patriots on Sunday, February 8th, 5:30 p.m. on NBC and Peacock. It is Super Bowl 60. Before we start talking about the game in general, why don't we go around the water cooler and talk about the hype level of this game? We are a week away from it. This was the longest week of the 2-week period. A lot of nonsense, not a lot of football, not a lot of real talk, more conversations about coaches and rumors and whatnot. But we are finally on game week. Injury reports are going to come out. Players are going to miss. There's going to be some questionable decisions leading up to kickoff. Paulie, what is your hype level to see Drake May versus Sam Darnold in Super Bowl 60?
Look, I'm going to be the sourpuss right away. This is just not a sexy matchup to me. But at the same time, I like defenses, and these are both very defensive teams. Obviously, the coaches, Vrabel, Mike Vrabel and Mike McDonald, both defensive coordinators that became coaches. I think that could be the selling point for me, is that it could be a very defensive game. But at the same time, with the numbers that the Seahawks have been putting up lately, it could be a showdown. But yeah, compared to the last couple seasons, I'm kind of sour on this one.
Marver, where are you at on a hype level? We know where the defenses lie on each team. We know where the offenses go for each team. Where are you when it comes to 7 days away from watching kickoff of Super Bowl 60?
Well, these two teams aren't so-called glamour teams. I mean, I did a spreadsheet. By the way, the Patriots faced 8 teams this season that fired their head coaches. But on my spreadsheet, I look at common opponents, which doesn't mean anything. They each faced 7 common opponents. They each went 6-1. New England went 28-18 on average, and Seattle went 33-19. So it's pretty close. There's like the second-year quarterback for New England, and then the journeyman quarterback for Seattle. It's kind of, you don't have the glamorous quarterbacks you usually have in the Super Bowl. So that aspect should be interesting. It's going to be, I think the defense, you do raise a point, is going to be a key. During the postseason, New England didn't score, they scored 54 points in the postseason. So then that's pretty low. So, they're going to have to pick up the pace a bit. And Seattle, obviously, on paper, has the upper hand.
Devin, we see you. You're on the YouTube at the Sports Cubicle. You are rocking a brightly neon green Seattle Seahawks shirt. What is your hype level to watch the NFC and AFC champions go at it? Two teams that have faced each other, franchises in their history that have faced each other before in a Super Bowl. Your thoughts as we head into the big game?
First off, Mercado, I'm repping both sides. This way I'm cool with everybody. This is very much a Super Bowl that no one predicted. If we go back and look at our predictions, I don't think any of us, it maybe even had these teams in the playoffs, maybe the Patriots, but definitely not the Seahawks. It's one of those things where this is another 6th time, as I held up 10 fingers, in NFL history where 2 teams that didn't make the playoffs last year are playing in the Super Bowl this year. It's very unpredicted, which I am kind of with Paul. That would be a bit of a sourpuss. This would be like if the Chicago White Sox faced anyone who wasn't the Dodgers or the Cubs in the World Series. But we got the storytelling there is very interesting. We have the Patriots, who were once a dynasty, had 5 years of not being great. We have this young quarterback, Drake May, who's definitely coming to the league and shook things up. But we also have the Seattle Seahawks, who, let's see, I don't think they even thought they're going to make it to the playoffs because they traded away their quarterback and their top wide receiver in the offseason. And now you have Sam Darnold, this journeyman, a guy who was written off for years, went to the Vikings, had one super season, and then they decided to stick with JJ. He went to Seattle, and he's having quite a career year. So this will be very interesting to say, though. And I'll dive more into my thoughts onto this. But right now, I'm like, you have the story, just the story no one wants. You have the kid trying to prove himself, and the guy who's been doing this for years trying to prove himself in this league. And either way, whoever hoists up that trophy should be damn proud of themselves and this season.
Well, I will say one source or entity did predict this matchup at the start of the season, and that's the NFL. On September 4th, 2025, in the morning, NFL tweeted out 32 teams with February dreams. It was the backs of 32 different players. Guess which two players were in the very front of that lineup? Drake May and Sam Darnold. So if you want to play conspiracy theory, like the Super Bowl logos predicted the opponents in previous years, we could go to that one. I also thought, on a funny note for me personally, all the way on the left-hand side, guess which two players were right next to each other? Caleb Williams and Max Crosby.
Very nice. Yeah, you know what? There's nothing more than the sports cubicle instead.
So we're sniffing out the conspiracy theories here.
Well, we saw the leak script already. See, we're ahead of the curve, everybody. But let's talk about how the two actors in this scripted Super Bowl is going to be with the Seattle Seahawks and the New England Patriots. For the Seahawks, they got here based on the defense. I want to read some of these stats that we came up with. In the 2025-2026 Seattle Seahawks boast a top-tier defense, ranking first in overall defense DVOA, which is the defense adjusted value over average, which is what the highest average and pinpoint is. That's what they're comparing it to. First in points allowed and sixth in yards allowed. This is a team that's pressure rate was at sixth in the league with 26.2% of the time. They got to your quarterback. They were able to deflect balls. They were getting turnovers. They were avoiding points. It is a top tier defense, but it wasn't just that side of the ball. The Seattle Seahawks ranked 7th in total offense, 3rd in scoring, 9th in passing, 10th in rushing, and 14th in pass blocking. Now, on the side of the AFC champions, they were 4th in points allowed with 18.8 and 8th in season rank when it came to yards given up. They gave up 295 yards per game. Their offense, though, 3rd in total offense, 2nd in scoring offense, 4th in passing offense, 6th in rushing offense. Now, the narrative behind both these two teams have to go with their quarterbacks and history. So let's start with Seattle. It comes down to Sam Darnold. This is the Super Bowl of, can Sam Darnold exercise the ghost he saw on primetime on Monday Night Football when the entire football world turned their back on him and judged him and declared that he was going to be a bust? He is 60 minutes away from winning a Super Bowl, for being one of the reasons a team wins a Super Bowl. On the other side, Drake May, Mike Vrabel, a schedule that people have questioned. Now, I am somebody who doesn't question a schedule. You play the 60 minutes that you're playing in front of you, and you win the game you're supposed to. But now that you're dealing with the best defense and an offense that hasn't wavered and a coach that has his team believing, all these factors start to add up and matter. So now that we've built the context, let's start with the offense versus defense. Seattle versus New England. That defense of Seattle versus that offense of the Patriots. Let's start with you, Paul. Who do you think comes out on top? We've seen Drake May do some great, spectacular plays with his feet. We know that he can throw over the defense, that he can slice you up like a surgeon. But this is a different beast that he's going up against. And that's not to say that he hasn't beaten good defenses. We saw it against Houston and we saw it against Denver. So now that you've seen this primetime matchup, there's really heavyweight fight of a great defense and a great offense. Where are you leaning on?
Well, I think, you've already said it, that he's faced some of the tougher defenses already, but this is the number one defense. So everything that he's done, it doesn't matter, but it shows that he's worthy enough to be there. It's going to be a lot of pressure for the young kid, because we're talking about, how good Seattle's defense is against the pass and the run, how good they've been at containing mobile quarterbacks this year, and how they don't let up big plays. So May's going to have to get creative. He's going to have to rely on Josh McDaniels to come up with a great scheme.
How did that go? Didn't you have a history with him, don't you, huh?
Yeah, not a great coach, decent coordinator, apparently.
Pretty good coordinator,
yeah. So I don't know. I mean, as far as May, second youngest quarterback in the game, facing a tough defense, like all of the intangibles lean against May. But at the same time, you saw the game sealing play last week against Denver. He took it upon himself. That wasn't the drawn up play. In real time, he decided to improvise, run for the first down, gave New England the guarantee that they were going to win as long as they held on to the football. And that's how they ended up winning the game. So there is that, where he's a little bit more spry of a quarterback. He's a little bit more creative of a quarterback. He's not so much of a pocket passer if he has to be, but a lot of these work against him. The youngest quarterback ever to start in a Super Bowl got smoked, and that was Dan Marino against the 49ers in Super Bowl 19.
So, Dev, now that you've heard kind of the history of young quarterbacks and you've seen this season, the numbers, how they match up offensive versus defense, Seattle versus New England, which way are you leaning? Are you leaning towards the top tier defense of the Seattle Seahawks, or are you leaning towards the young kid in Drake May?
Well, as much as I do like Drake May, I thought he should have been taken by the Bears. But let's be real, he would have failed in that organization here. You need the guy who was Bears proof. I'll shut the hell about that. I get sidetracked too much here. But I have been one of those guys looking at the New England Patriots and in this playoff thing. But let's just take a look here because, CJ Stroud, who was apparently, I'm convinced that was an actor who looked like CJ Stroud. We're going to see a video on YouTube. I snuck into a stadium and played quarterback for the Texans because that was not the CJ Stroud we know and love. They went up against a backup quarterback in Denver, and it was 10-7 in a snowstorm. And if it wasn't for that snowstorm, I think that game goes into overtime tied at 10. And Drake May did not look good there. Unless they were playing on easy mode to rest themselves so they knew they had a Super Bowl, I definitely disagree here. And the thing is, looking in this offseason, the Patriots defense, with the exception of one game, offense with the exception of one game, they have not been a team that looks like they're going to be winning here. And if you have a great defense and keep scores low, you can definitely kind of make that into that sort of winning thing here. But the Super Bowls are typically a big kind of show. What's the word? Blowout. Thank you. Where both teams are going to be scoring pretty high, or one team scores nothing. I like the close ones, not the 13-3. But when you look at the Seattle Seahawks, they have the best defense in the league. They've been stopping people. And it kind of reminds me of the 2006 Chicago Bears. You don't need to have a great quarterback and have a good defense to rise you there. But we've been seeing Sam Darnold went for over 300 yards and 3 touchdowns and 0 interceptions last game. I think Drake May has not had a single game this offseason close to that. I think he's thrown at least 1 interception per game. I know Marbury is going to fact check me because he's my man this year and I love him for that. But I think the defense is going to be better than the offense here because they always say, you never hear what beats a good defense, a great offense. Now you always hear what beats a good offense, a good defense. And I definitely think Seattle Seahawks defense can shut down Drake May in primetime.
I believe Homer Simpson said a great offense beats a better defense.
Doesn't he own the Denver Broncos?
He does.
Barber, who is the favorite in the matchup in the ring on Super Bowl 60 between the Seattle defense and the New England offense? If you're a Patriots fan, you can make every single argument why you should favor that side of the ball. And if you're somebody who lives in the Pacific Northwest, you could definitely say why Seattle should be the heavy favorite on that specific matchup. Where do you lean? Seattle defense or New England offense?
Well, I think that New England's going to be challenged moving against the Seattle defense. And keep in mind that during the regular season, Seattle had to play the Rams twice and the 49ers twice, whereas the New England was playing the Dolphins and the Jets twice. So the competition wasn't the same during the season either, if you're going to compare their stats. But as it turns out, I mean, I believe that Seattle scored over 35 points and a half twice. So they're going to be tough to stop. So I think that the key is going to be if New England's defense can step it up, because Seattle, as you mentioned with the DVOA, has already proven that they have what they need to have to be a good defensive team, and they've been very successful. They won 14 games during the regular season. So the stats speak for themselves, and they came out of probably arguably the toughest division. So they had 3 playoff teams. So I think that they have the edge. I mean, on paper, but paper doesn't mean anything if you set fire to it.
Now, there is some context that I would like to set up between this Seahawks and Patriots matchup that we've been kind of harping on. So we've been talking about how New England is going to do against Seattle's defense, and Seattle's defense is going to do against the New England offense. Well, just for recent history and for trends, yes, Drake May did not have a great game against Denver. We saw that snowstorm came in. Denver's a great defense. But against the Houston Texans, who we believe is probably the best defense, not named the Seattle Seahawks, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. They beat them 28-16. Now, the Seattle defense that is supposed to be the top tier, that eats glass and sleeps in barbed wire, gave up 27 points to the LA Rams. And let's not count every single time that they've played the LA Rams that it has been a barn burner because, that is a team that puts up a lot of points. So each team can beat the other team at what they do best. And that's what makes this intriguing. This entire first part of the segment was, well, the favorite parts or the thing that favors the Seattle defense or the favors the New England offense, both teams have overcome and have been bitten in behind by their adversary. So this is not a gimme. I don't think it is just a gimme that Seattle is going to walk in and keep them to 0 points. And I don't think it's a gimme that New England's going to put up 28. But both things are possible. And at the end of this Super Bowl, in this matchup, I can see Seattle with 3 takeaways and stifling them. But I can also see Drake May putting up 30 points because we've seen it recently against this Seattle defense. As we are breaking down and previewing, predicting Super Bowl 60, the big game over in the West Coast in San Francisco, Santa Monica. It is the NFC champion Seattle Seahawks, the AFC champion New England Patriots. It is a 5:30 p.m. kickoff on NBA. Oh, I wish I was an NBA. NBA and NBC and Peacock. And we are breaking it all down. But I think there's another important story to talk about.
The Turning Point halftime show?
It has finally happened here.
Also, one other thing. Santa Clara, not Santa Monica. Don't worry.
Thank you, Santa Clara, yes. And yeah, so, hey, you see, we are honest observers here. But let's talk about the injuries. Yeah, the injuries. 2 quarterbacks in this Super Bowl are on the injury report. The first injury report that we got into the final few days of heading into game week, Sam Darnold was limited with an oblique, and Drake May was limited with a right shoulder. So both starting quarterbacks are not going to be at 100%. Now, nobody is at 100%, especially come Super Bowl Sunday. But we are heading into a game where 2 of the biggest key players are hurt. Paul, how big of a red flag is it for you that a week before game day, both quarterbacks are limited? Is big deal, no deal, little deal?
The May one with the shoulder is a little bit of a question to me, especially if it's because I don't remember. Didn't he take a hit off of his non-throwing shoulder? Is that the shoulder we're talking about, or was it his throwing shoulder?
I think his right shoulder would be his throwing shoulder.
And I know that like an oblique would be important too to the throwing motion, but I'm not as concerned about that versus May's. No, I don't think it's a big story, but at the same time, it's something to keep an eye on as the week progresses.
When McDonald had that setup against Matthew Stafford, where he had 7 up front, and then he dropped back 5, and he only kept 2 on the line. Imagine being a young quarterback who also has a bad bum shoulder, and you have no idea how to read a defense, or you're tensing up, or you don't know where it's coming from. That is the interesting part about what Mike McDonald can do going up against a rookie quarterback, because we know he's eaten up young quarterbacks this season. Devin, does it worry you? How big of a worry level are you seeing 2 starting quarterbacks of the Super Bowl on the injury report already?
As of Sunday with a week to go, I am not too concerned just yet. I mean, yeah, like Paul said, Drake May's shoulder injury, that's going to be an issue. But, Sam Darnold had a bicep injury against the 49ers, and that team went balling out there. But we had a whole week, guys. Here's the thing. These guys are on a bye week. And you know who didn't have a bye week? Bronco Nagurski. And now he's dead. But maybe the bye week's a good thing, and these guys can heal themselves up in time.
Marver.
Yes.
What?
Can you not give us a Simpsons reference?
And we love the Simpsons here on the Sports Cubicle on WCPT 820 AM Heartland Signal, WSBC 1240 AM Chicago, and on YouTube at the Sports Cubicle. I'm Mike Mercado. He's Devin Tingle, Paul Shivari, and the marvelous one, Dan Marver. Dan, how worried are you about Sam Darnold and Drake May both being on the injury reports so early into the game of the week?
Well, I mean, I have a feeling that they're both going to play. I mean, they've not been ruled out, and so I'm going to assume they are. Unless something really falls apart. I mean, I don't even know who their backups are. I think Drew Lock is in Seattle, but other than that, I can't really tell you. I know that Tom Brady's not in New England anymore, but he didn't like that his old coach didn't make the Hall of Fame, but that's another story. So, I mean, I think they're both going to play, and if they don't, you can see what happened when Bo Nix was out. So it'll make a big difference if either one is out. But I'm proceeding into the assumption that they'll patch them both up with that extra week of rest and they'll both play. I don't think either one has been ruled out at this juncture, so I'm not too concerned.
And for those wondering, it's Joshua Dobbs and Tommy DeVito is the backup quarterbacks for New England.
Tommy DeVito. He has one of the coolest agents in the game. So let me ask you guys this. So we've talked a lot about Drake May going against the Seattle defense. What about Sam Darnold against his New England defense? I think we could talk about New England's defense is nothing special, also nothing horrible. It's as good as it's as good as a Super Bowl defense should be. Let's just put it that way, right? Like somebody like Christian Gonzalez who anchors that thing, like that's a good defense, but
you're saying for this season and not all time.
Not all time, yeah.
How dare you disparage in the 40th anniversary of the greatest defense in Super Bowl history.
But Sam Darnold is not just going against a good defense, he's going against history, right? That's the context of Sam Darnold in this Super Bowl. We saw him as a young quarterback, a top draft pick on Monday Night Football with the world watching him expose himself in a way that a young quarterback has never done in a vulnerable sense, saying, I'm seeing ghosts out there. I am not ready. I am seeing things and I am feeling pressure that I should not be, that's not there. And we did not think that he was going to bounce back the way he did. And what Kevin O'Connell did in Minnesota with Sam Darnold was absolutely amazing. And it's a credit to him to put it in the work. But if he struggles in this game, it won't matter how good the defense plays, how good Kenneth Walker plays, Zach Charbonnet. Doesn't matter if Jackson Smith-Njigba is the next number one wide receiver in the league. It will fall on Sam Darnold. This is his game to win and his game to lose only because of the history and the most infamous soundbite a quarterback might have ever said. Paulie, how much pressure is on Sam Darnold in this game?
I think when you set it up like that, there's a lot, especially when you find out that the Pats defense was tied for the second fewest plays of 40-plus yards allowed this season. So they don't allow the big play. So you can't rely on like a big rushing attack that's going to take over. But at the same time, 3 yards in a cloud of dust is always a good, slow, and steady way. And if it's a defensive game, if you can control the clock, control the ball, keep the score low, and be able to convert on your red zone chances, that's the only way you can make up for it.
And they're kind of built for it, right? Where you have two running backs that are bulldozers. You have a quarterback who, as long as he's not making a mistake, he can get the ball to somebody like a Jackson Smith-Njigba. And like that is the ultimate weapon in that team. And then they have plenty of auxiliary, Shaheed, and they have like good wide receivers to go along them. They have a good core.
And are you talking about Walker and Cam Akers, or because we know Charbonnet is out for the
yes,
game?
The idea of bowling ball. Well, between on the other side, if you're looking at New England with Ramondre Stevenson and with Travion Henderson, it's kind of the same idea. In order for them to strike against a defense that is so highly rated, you're going to need to convert, and you're going to need to put 6 points on the board. 3 points are not going to be able to win this game. New England and Seattle are both oddly matched up in a way where when they're in that red zone, when they're in that final few yards, they have the weaponry to do it. So when you're there, it falls on the quarterback. It falls on Drake May, and it falls on Sam Darnold. And Sam Darnold specifically, we know the uphill battle Drake May is going to have against the Seattle defense.
And red zone scoring has been a big problem for the Patriots.
And now look at if you're in the pads and the helmet of Sam Darnold, those are the moments where you can win this game. If all it's going to take is a touchdown or two, 21 points, 24 points, and you can win a Super Bowl, that falls on you. That falls on you getting the team where it needs to getting Kenneth Walker to a certain spot where, and also on him that he can make a big play. But it's going to come down to Sam Darnold not making a mistake, not turning it over. I believe, and the reason I bring this up, and Dev, I'll throw it to you. I'm thinking about a moment where Sam Darnold throws an interception in the corner of the end zone. And what kind of back-breaking, momentum-changing play that would be, not because it's an interception, a turnover, a lack of a touchdown in the Super Bowl, but it's Sam Darnold that's happening to. If this were Caleb Williams, Drake May, Jaden Daniels, Matthew Stafford, you'd be like, they'll bounce back. It's because we have the soundbite and the history of Sam Darnold. Do you think that's in play, Dev, that the pressure on him is just so big that he's going to be the one under the microscope the most?
Absolutely, Mercado, because when you look at Sam Darnold this year, this is storybook first overall draft pick, was terrible with one team, got bounced around a lot, had one great season last year, and everyone thought, oh, that was a contract year. He's never going to do it again. Goes to a whole new team, a team that is typical for getting quarterbacks that they think are going to be the world and bust on them. And he didn't need to do that here, though. He's had a great year, a couple bad games, but this is just going to be the thing, though. There's so much pressure here, but also there's pressure on both guys. It's the Super Bowl. Every player that steps on there knows that's a big one there. You know, for Drake May, there have been 18 quarterbacks that made it to one Super Bowl, lost, and never got the chance to go back there. On your second year, you don't want to be known as that guy. But when you're Sam Darnold, you have all this years of pent-up thing. You still have people that think this man's a bust. Still have people that think this man is garbage. Still think this is a fluke here. And also, his contract with the Seahawks, it is every year there's an option. So if they don't want to keep him next year or the year afterwards, they can easily cut him and he can be back to bouncing around, being that journeyman that we all know and maybe even love. The man has
his offensive coordinator in Las Vegas.
Well,
yeah, that worked out so well with them. That worked out so well, sir. But also, Sam Darnold, just word of advice. If you guys are at the 1 yard of the goal, run it. Do not throw it.
To be fair, if that happens again, it's going to be vomit-inducing for me because I was calling for the Bears to hire Darrell Bevell before the 2014 season instead of Mark Trestman, and we all know what happened that season with Darrell Bevell and the Seahawks. And so if Clint Kubiak calls for a pass play on the goal line, and he's the favorite to be the Raiders head coach next year, I just might quit watching football.
And you know who might quit playing football is Sam Darnold if he has himself an egg of a game. And this is why I keep going to the pressure is all on him.
He's 0-4 against the New England Patriots in his career.
And there's no bigger game. There's going to be a lot of Seattle fans. So all of us, if you're not, most of you who are listening to us here, whether it's on YouTube or on the radio, understand and know the inside baseball of the Super Bowl is a very corporate game. There are a lot of fans there, but it's also a game where sponsors and businesses sell and give tickets away. So it's not the same as a national championship game in football or basketball or any of these college sports, the World Series, the NBA Finals, where it's fans that are in the arena and in the concourse. This is a little bit more of a corporate game. With that being said, it's still going to be in the West Coast. So there's going to be a lot of Seattle pressure, a lot of media pressure that he's used to around there.
But not even the pressure, just the fact that I think the environment, the Seahawks go every year to Levi's Stadium and still early on the weather, but weather similar to Seattle, at least, in terms of the maritime climate.
Sure.
We're calling for a 20% chance of rain here a week out, but that could be a big factor in this, that the fact that Seattle would be used to the weather and the environment.
So then this is kind of where we'll circle this in this conversation of Sam Darnold's perspective versus this defense is if this game ends and New England wins, who feels better if Seattle wins or New England wins? Let's say we live in reality, both of them just happened. Who feels better going into next season that they'll make their way back? That is kind of where I'm sitting at in all this is if Seattle loses, do they feel like they're capable and right back in the Super Bowl picture? Does New England feel like they're right in the Super Bowl picture? I think if you're a Seattle Seahawks fan, you feel like you need to cash in right now. This is the moment where the game is at, who the quarterback is, everything it took to get to this very moment. New England fans probably feel the same way I'm assuming Bears fans feel, Washington fans feel, teams with young quarterbacks where we might be back. There is a chance, there's a window. In the NFL, nothing's guaranteed, but I like the odds, the number to say that's the case.
Having a young quarterback under control is always a nice thing.
Marver, Sam Darnold, how much pressure is on him knowing everything in context and what is at stake for him in this game? Does he have the most pressure out of any player? How big of a win would this be for him?
It would be a huge win for him because of his history in the league, which has been a little checkered. And I think that, did you say that in Minnesota he exposed himself? I might have missed that.
Just like Randy Moss against Green Bay.
Anyway, next year, I mean, they'll have their running back, Zach Charbonnet, back next year, which will help because Walker is their main running back now. So that would help to have that additional piece. And I mean, I didn't expect Darnold to do as well as he's done. I mean, he's obviously exceeded all expectations because he wasn't an elite quarterback by any stretch of the imagination. And now, he has a chance to cement his name on the in history as being a Super Bowl champion. And I mean, in a way, like you say, you guys say that it's a surprising matchup to the non-playoff teams, including I think New England. What they won 3 or 4 games last year. It's just an amazing matchup. You don't have any of your regulars like Kansas City and whatnot and the big names. So it isn't one of those neon light Super Bowls. There's a lot of names that nobody's ever heard of. I mean, I think that probably people think Charbonnet might be in Marty Supreme for all we know, but but I think that Chalamet, of course. But besides that, you're gonna see, you're gonna have NBC, you're gonna have Tirico and Collinsworth doing the game, and it's it should be a good production. And there's going to be 18 billion commercials and an hour halftime show, so it's going to be a lengthy endeavor. But I think that all in all, based upon the history of the playoffs and what's happened so far, if everybody's healthy, except for the ones that have been ruled out, Seattle should win this game.
And with that, why don't we, Paul, let's do some live production on the air. Should we do our Super Bowl props, or should we make our predictions first and then go into our props? What do you think?
Let's do the predictions first, because I feel like this is the first year that we've all kind of felt the same way about it, that it's a little one-sided, but I'm curious what everyone thinks.
Absolutely. And why don't, with that, for some context, the game line, it opened at Seahawks -3.5, and now the Seahawks are favorite at -4.5. Shout out to Paulie for getting me some of these numbers. And Sam Darnold, the favorite to be Super Bowl 60 MVP. Drake May as well, right below him. And Jackson Smith and Jigba, Kenneth Walker, Ramondre Stevenson. So we are building the actors, the players in this game. It is time. Super Bowl 60, the biggest game ever in NFL history. The team that will be the 60th team to hoist the Vince Lombardi Trophy. We will start with Paul Shivari. Paulie, who wins? What's the final score? And who is Super Bowl 60 MVP?
Seahawks win 27-12. As far as MVP, I feel like it's one of those years where it's not going to be a stud offensive player or a quarterback. So I mean, I couldn't give you a player, but I think if we see like a pick six, or maybe someone that picks up like 2 interceptions or leads in sacks, I think it goes to a defensive player this year, but I couldn't identify which one.
Marver, who wins Super Bowl 60, final score, and the MVP?
Well, Seattle's going to win the game. I'm trying to find a score that's going to be logical in terms of, I think that Seattle will be able to get at least 28 points, and we could do round numbers, 28-17, and that's what I'll predict. And I don't think I agree. It may not be an offensive player that wins the MVP this year, so I don't think it necessarily will be Darnold, even if he has an outstanding game. I mean, you could have somebody that you don't expect. I mean, even the running back Walker, who knows? If he goes as 100 gazillion yards, it could be a running back, but otherwise it could be a defensive player, particularly if it's a lower scoring game. But the 28-17, there's going to be somebody that's going to have some good numbers for Seattle on the offense. And if it isn't Darnold, it might be Walker or a receiver.
Devin, Super Bowl 60 winner, final score, MVP.
I hate that this is I forget how many years in a row Marver and I pretty much agree on this, but I also do have 28-17 Seahawks going into this. And much like Paul and Marver, I don't know who's really going to get Super Bowl MVP. I kind of lean more with Paul that someone on defense can have a great game. In my head, I was like, maybe I'll say Kenneth Walker because I don't want to say Sam Darnold. That's just too cliche here. And now see what we're going to say in here. Here's the thing. If Darnold and the Seahawks win this game, I can see them giving it to him as like a here you go. We're going to complete this story so we can make the Sam Darnold movie after we sell the race to Disney in 2046. So you know what? I'll be different. I'll say Sam Darnold gets MVP. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong.
The Seattle Seahawks will beat the New England Patriots 34-28. Sam Darnold will be Super Bowl 60 MVP. With that being said, all four of us.
34-28 might imply that it goes to overtime.
34-28, I think New England is going to make this really tight. I think this is going to be in regulation. Okay. I believe New England is a very live dog in this, guys. I was afraid. I picked myself last to make my pick because I wanted to see if we were going to do the dreaded curse that you see on every pregame where everybody has the same logo picked. I was afraid that we were all going to go Seattle. I do believe New England is a legitimate dog in this game. I do believe Stephon Diggs can go off himself. I do think the running backs for New England are talented enough to bull rush and completely take over a game. I do think Sam Darnold can be gotten to. So I wouldn't be surprised if New England wins this game. I'm not going to be surprised that it's going to be a very well competitive, tightly wound game. I think Seattle's just a better football team than New England. Do you think, Bale, I'll go to you since we have a second. Are Patriots live dogs in this?
Yeah, I mean, you know me, I'm a contrarian, and just for the sake of argument, a lot of the times when we get together, I like to try and find the counter argument. And I tried so hard to make the Patriots the winner in the way I researched this, and I just can't do it. Everything just leans Seattle. That's not to say that they're, a bad team and won't make a good game out of it. And the fact that I think Mike Vrabel, with a little bit more experience as a head coach in this league and who's been there before coaching in the playoffs and has been there with the Patriots and has been to Super Bowls, does provide a great leadership quality for this team that could use something like that going into this. But I just think Seattle's just a hot team right now. They've destroyed some really good teams going into this. They can put up big numbers very quick in this game. The environment just leads to them just being the better team. But it's one game. Anything can happen in 60 minutes. So we could all be very wrong about this, but I just don't see it happening.
Marver, how live of dog are the New England Patriots?
I mean, if I were a betting man, which I'm not, I might take a chance on them because I mean, obviously they did what they needed to do in the AFC to get to the game, and obviously they did benefit a little bit from Denver's quarterback situation, but all in all, I think that it could be a little closer than what I said, but I still think that it will be a healthy 2-score game at 28-17.
And Dev, finally, for all our Boston, New England fans, how live are their Patriots?
Patriots got a chance, man. It's why they're in the Super Bowl. I'm going to stop. That just does not even sound like a real Boston accent. It sounds sad. But much like Marver's, if they made it to the AFC and made it to the Super Bowl, they definitely have a shot here. No one makes it on a fluke. I mean, they're there. They have a chance. I can see the Seahawks kind of shutting down. I can see us being close to them squeaking by a hair. I don't see the Seahawks laying down and the Patriots dominating them. But with how easy it's been for the Patriots most of the season, unless, the luck of God is on their side. I mean, their old coach, Bill Belichick, he was the devil. They had the quarterback who was the cousin of Jesus Christ, Tom Brady himself. But maybe there's some divine powers going into this, but it just, to me, I feel like Seattle's got this. But who knows? We could all be wrong, and I could be repping this hat on Monday morning.
So for Devin's cousin from Boston, it is time to make some prop picks. Really fast around the table. I will give the boys the question and they will make their prediction. Follow along with us. We will tally these up at the very end. And next week we will declare the Super Bowl 60 predictions champion. And we will start with Paulie. What is the first commercial for Super Bowl 60?
Ooh, let's go with a food commercial. I'll say Uber Eats.
That's a good one. That's a low key. Okay, I like that one. Devin, first commercial after the Super Bowl.
Yeah, that's a really tough one because they don't always go with the biggest ones to start. I already saw 2, but you know what? If I were to say Miller Lite, would that also work with Miller Genuine Draft? I'll just say a Miller commercial.
That's good. I like that. Marver, first commercial of the Super Bowl.
Well, I think you could have. They go between 8 and 10 million for 30 seconds, so it better be a good one. So I think it's. Usually you'll have it might be like State Farm or something like that from the you never know. I think that could be a long shot.
I like that, like a
That's
State Farm
really
or an Allstate. Yeah. So far we've had food, Uber, Miller Lite beer, insurance, State Farm and Allstate, and I will go with car truck, so Ram or Ford. So we literally hit the entire demographic.
Okay, but you got to pick a brand then.
I will go with Ford. I will go with Ford. All right, so there you go. That is it. Go with another one. Heads or tails? Paul, what is the coin flip of Super Bowl 60?
Home team is going to be the Patriots, visiting team the Seahawks. I'll go with heads for Seahawks.
Marver, heads or tails?
Heads.
Devin, heads or tails?
Tails, because this season has been so backwards and crazy. Why would anyone be thinking with their head?
Which is why I'm going to go with heads. What is the color of Gatorade that is poured onto the winning coach's Super Bowl 60?
The heavy favorite is blue. Both teams wear blue. I'm going blue.
Marver?
I'm going to go with purple.
Okay, that was my guess, so that will be going somewhere else. So purple. Devin?
That weird yellow-green color that you see in all the ads for Gatorade.
And then I will go with orange. So we, again, went through the entire popular spectrum. First touchdown scorer. We'll go a little bit more on the field. Who is the player that scores the first touchdown of the game? If it is Sam Darnold throwing or Drake May throwing, you could call them. But otherwise, a receiver, running back, a defensive touchdown. What is the first score of Super Bowl 60?
Well, I didn't give an MVP, and I said it was going to be a defensive player, so I'll say Devin Witherspoon.
Very nice. Okay, Marver?
Jackson Smith, the Jigba.
Devin?
Kenneth Walker.
Drake May. And finally, the last one of Super Bowl 16. How long will the national anthem go?
Do we know who's singing it?
I do not.
Hold on, let me look this up first.
As we are living it. So this is how we're going to play. We're going to do a sort of Price is Right, all right, as this final one. We will take a random guess. You could, as the boys could be looking this up as it is, if you're listening or watching along, make your guess as well before the big game. So you will make a guess, and the person who's the closest
Who's
will
Charlie
win.
Puth?
Charlie Puth. He's from Kings.
All right, then. We'll win.
I love that Marver's more on top of you.
To the Marver.
Pop culture.
Ed Marver. All right. Paulie, give me a time. Not in the dark.
2 minutes, 25 seconds.
Marver.
It's going to go long. 250.
Devin.
238.
I'm going to go 212. Ladies and gentlemen, that is our Super Bowl 60 preview and prediction show. Thank you so much. It is always the most fun we have when it comes to just letting loose, untying these ties, and just enjoying each other's company, talking some football, because it doesn't matter anymore. The big game is here. All the predictions, the analysis, all the games, it all comes down to 60 minutes, a halftime show, and some pre- and post-game shows. So we are able to have some fun with each and every one of you. With that being said, please enjoy the games. Hopefully you'll win some money on your Super Bowl squares or during your prop bets or your parlays or whatever team you picked on the money line. Otherwise, enjoy the commercials, enjoy the food, enjoy the company. Let's go around the table. What is your favorite part of Super Bowl Sunday as we say goodbye to our friends here on the Sports Cubicle? Paulie, I'll start with you. Your favorite part of a Super Bowl Sunday, is it the anticipation of the game, the food, the halftime show, the commercials, the game? What is it about Super Bowl Sunday that gets you the most happy?
The proper vehicle for your chips, a dip.
Oh, that low-key top tier right there. That is a good one. Marver, favorite thing that makes you happy? Doesn't have to be about the game. About Super Bowl Sunday when it finally comes after a long season?
Well, after the long pregame anticipation, I think that when there's finally a kickoff, after all those hours of hype, it's kind of like a relief that the game's finally being played for me.
Devin, what's your favorite moment about Super Bowl Sunday?
Well, as this will be my 7th year of watching the Super Bowl from WCPT, I must say the food, because I always try to treat myself to something very nice that I can eat well beforehand. But this year, I think my favorite part of the Super Bowl is going to be Green Day opening it all up.
It's a good call. And I'm a fan of Big Bunny, obviously, for my Puerto Rican heritage and the culture. None of us understand what he's saying. Yeah, even though none of us understand what he's saying, even if you speak fluent Spanish and understand the dialect of Puerto Rico, we don't always understand what our friend is saying, but I'm excited for that. My favorite part about Super Bowl Sunday is whether I'm with friends, family, by myself, my wife, this year with the baby, it's that moment where the pregame is doing the final bugs and you see the credentials and who the producers were, and you see the players hitting on the field and the pizza has just arrived and the last guests have came in. It's that moment where the possibility of watching the greatest football game of all time, seeing the funniest commercials, watching the most amazing previews. It is that moment of anticipation, that moment of anything is possible behind one of the best Sundays of the year. is my favorite because as soon as kickoff happens, as soon as that first chip hits the dip, as soon as that first commercial hits, it's all reality. It's all now part of the moment. But before that moment, it's what we treasure the most. It's what we get excited the most. And that is why I love Super Bowl Sunday. And with that, I love each and every one of you. I love my boys here. And I've loved enjoying another NFL season with each and every one of you. With that, guys, I think that's it. Paul, is that this edition of the show?
We'll see how long this time's out.
All right. With that, we hope you've enjoyed our Super Bowl prediction.
Hey, fun fact, both quarterbacks had been to the Super Bowl before.
What's that?
Darnold was a backup for the 49ers a couple of years ago, and Drake May attended as a kid in Super Bowl 50.
Thank you so much for joining us on this edition of the Sports Cubicle, our Super Bowl 60 prediction preview show. I'm your host, Mike Mercado. He's Paul Shivari. He's Devin Tingle. He's Dan Marver. Enjoy the game. Take care of yourself and each other. Stay tuned to more of the Sports Cubicle on WCPT 820 AM, HeartlandSignal.com, WSBC 1240 AM Chicago, and on YouTube at the Sports Cubicle.